You may have heard or even signed an acceptable use policy. Recently, however, there's been a shift to talk about responsible use policies. So what's the difference between an acceptable use policy and a responsible use policy? And why is there an educational trend that is complementing the former with the latter? In general, acceptable use policies are strategies that allow school districts to notify technology users of expected behavior and set forth the consequence of misuse. Kramer and Hayes 2010 specifically say that schools' acceptable use policies represent the current legal basis and historical precedents that define the climate of mobile phone and social media use in classrooms. More often than not, acceptable use policies are long, convoluted policy documents, which include compliance to state codes, laws, and regulations, including copyright, disclaimers, roles and responsibilities, as well as signatures. They are confusing to adults and incomprehensible to students. Generally, acceptable use policies are presented in the format of what students should not do. It defines the rules that learners must follow and may limit technology use, is restrictive, intended to control or prohibit particular behaviors, and operates on the assumption that if you don't follow the rules, you will lose the privilege of the technology. In many cases, there is a disconnect between what the acceptable use policy says and what is actually happening. Enter the need and discussion around a responsible use policy. Responsible use policies are presented in the format of what the student should do. It increases student responsibility for use of technology to support your learning, and it is developed with them to create a common understanding. It also contains clear expectations regarding the use of technology in the classroom. How do we move from acceptable to responsible use of technology? Well, increasing student ownership and teaching digital citizenship. These are a must. This includes co-constructing norms and behaviors of what appropriate use actually looks like. Instead of focusing on what not to do, it's important to give explicit and concrete examples of what people can do. The theory of situated cognition tells us that learning is tied to authentic activity and context. Digital citizenship, therefore, needs to be embedded in learning contexts which balance safety considerations with opportunities to engage in the affordances technology has to offer. Moving from acceptable to responsible use is not without its challenges, but certainly lots of opportunities. What are some of the courageous conversations we can have around the challenges and opportunities? What are the resources and supports that we need to move from acceptable to responsible use? Because we do need to develop competencies in our learners to become safe, responsible, and productive members of our current and future society.